So I'm always questioning, like, is this melody distinctive enough that if I heard a marching band playing one of my songs with a trumpet, someone knew the song, someone had heard our album and they heard the song, would they recognize that song? Would they go, oh, that's Brutal Camouflage by Emerald City Council, or that's Ice Thinning by Emerald? Would they know that? And so that's what I'm always trying to do. So the first thing that I want to talk about is really melody. So I sort of developed, and this is the one thing. So this is one thing I'm going to talk about that's sort of my own original idea. So feel free to use it, but give me credit for it. But I sort of have this thing when I'm working on a song that I use that I call the marching band rule, or the marching band principle. Okay. Now I don't know if you're familiar with marching band or at all or not, from like
a little bit.
Okay. So, marching bands, I come from the band tradition, from the wind percussion, trumpets, marching percussion, all that stuff. I come from that background. Right. And so, so you see marching bands playing at like, football games, playing pep band, basketball games, or whatever, And so sometimes they're playing original stuff. They're going to play the fight song for the school and all that stuff. But a lot of times they're going to do these, in this day and age, they'll do arrangements of different pop songs. Okay. So you'll hear a marching band play anything from Hey Jude to Rocket Man to Friends in Low Places to, some Billy Joel, whatever. And so if you're going to do a marching band arrangement of a pop song, the melody has to move around enough to be distinctive that when you hear it without the words, you recognize it. Okay, makes sense. So for instance, if you even hear someone just humming, da da na 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 na, okay, they're humming Hey Jude, right? So if you hear it played on a trumpet as opposed to being sung, you're immediately going to know that's Hey Jude, right? So what I try to do with my melodies, particularly for my strongest hooks, for my choruses and things like that, I want to make sure that the melody is distinctive enough that if someone heard it being played on a trumpet or whatever, and you could think of this as like Muzak, you're shopping at Michael's or whatever, and the music, and you've got a flute playing, a Steely Dan song or whatever, you hear it and you recognize immediately that that's, oh, okay, that's obviously, Rocket Man by by Elton John, right? And so it immediately because of the melody, and then you're humming along with it, right? So you hear the marching band play it, that that's what it is. But a lot of songs that I hear, people will go, "Hey, what do you think about my song?" And they'll play it for me, and it's going like da na 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 na. Na, 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 na. And there's nothing distinctive about that, right? They're kind of on one note the whole time, maybe just moving the chord changes or something. And it gets real repetitive, and there's nothing distinctive with the melody that you would hear that being played on an instrument and go, oh, that's got to be that song.
Right.
Does that make sense? So I want to make sure that my melodies move around enough, that they're distinctive enough that you would recognize them, because that's going to help get stuck in your head a little bit more, right? The more of that melodic motion that you have. And rhythm can also help with that too, right? So if you're doing just the same rhythms over and over and over again, right? Like I just did, na 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 na, right? It gets repetitive and it gets boring. If you start mixing it up a little bit, mixing up rhythmically what you're doing, because when Hey Jude, when you listen to that, or even Garth Brooks, I've got Friends in Low Places, right? Those are moving around a lot, and the rhythm's varying with what they're doing. So it makes sense. You don't want it to be random. You don't want it to be, just way out there or whatever. It definitely needs to make sense. But melodic motion and then, rhythmic variation is going to either make that song distinctive in its own entity, or it's going to just be redundant and repetitive, right? So I'm always questioning, like, is this melody distinctive enough that if I heard a marching band playing one of my songs with a trumpet, someone knew the song, someone had heard our album and they heard the song, would they recognize that song? Would they go, oh, that's Brutal Camouflage by Emerald City Council, or that's Ice Thinning by Emerald? Would they know that? And so that's what I'm always trying to do. And also what that will help you with is like, it can help you with like coming up with like an intro for your song when you're producing it, right? If you've got a distinctive enough melody, you know, then have the guitar play the notes of the chorus that you're going to be singing later on, or a variation of that. That will help kind of, you know, give you, you know, some melodic material to create intros and you know,
Yeah.
interludes and things like that.